Hi there everyone, it's Jaakko here. Welcome to the second episode of Sci-fi Corridor production diary thing, and the little demo which I showed you in the beginning is just something that I put together in Marmoset Toolpack 3. I just take the blockout scene which I'm working now in Blender, and I just put it there and move the camera a little bit and put the light to blink and just played around a little bit. It's Marmoset Toolpack is so cool. I mean the new version 3, which allows us to do animation and all kinds of things that we couldn't do before. It's just absolutely brilliant. I'm gonna be probably doing a tutorial video on that later, so that I'll also take a look at the baking, because the baking is absolutely looks like it's absolutely brilliant there. So we're gonna be able to bake some assets and also render them in the same program. So that's just absolutely fantastic stuff. So yeah, without further ado, let's take a look. I was able to continue the blockout, and I just dived right into this and created these tubes and everything, and I just basically modeled this from the scratch and made the tiles, and then built this so that it fits to the grid, so that it's completely modular, so that these wall pieces here now are completely modular. So I'm gonna be able to like move these guys around. I'm just gonna put this guy, this snapped on, so we're gonna be able to do like that. So yeah, this basically these guys work perfectly to the grid, so I'm gonna be able to just do that. And then now that I've established this modularity here in the Blender, I'm sure that it's gonna work in Unreal Engine 4 just the same. So it's a really good way that we are we respect that sort of grid system. And I had a little bit issues with that earlier version of this, because I noticed that everything was a little too small, and now everything is 3 meters tall and everything just looks natural in Unreal Engine 4. I'm using that template for the first version game, and it's just I'm able to move and walk into the corridor, and everything just works beautifully now. And I had to actually sort of remodel some of these assets, because then I had to change that aspect ratio of this wall piece, because it didn't fit to the grid anymore. If I just scale it like that, then it's gonna be off the grid, and I absolutely don't want. I want everything to be in the grid, so that I'm gonna be able to create modular assets and reuse them, and then also save a lot of texture space in that way. So yes, so nothing really special here so far. I just kept modeling and tried to sort of add some detail somewhere, and then add some larger shapes here, because I want that everything is not like super messy, but also it's gonna be this clean kind of things in here in the walls. And I don't know what this could be, but maybe some kind of like tanks, or some kind of like servers or something like that, and just basically create large shapes first. And well, I did create some smaller details here, like this maybe some kind of door control mechanism for the door, and the door is doesn't look too great at the moment, so I absolutely need to do some concept design for the door, which is just now it's just this simple looking square rectangular door, which is supposed to move like this, I suppose, and just but it's a work in progress. And at this point, when I'm just blocking things out, I haven't UV unwrapped anything, and I haven't done anything like that. It's just not such a big deal to just throw something away and just start from the scratch. So that's the beauty of this design oriented workflow, where I'm just focusing on concepting and focusing on making everything sort of look good before I really start to even think about like finalizing any assets. So yeah, definitely coming along okay here. I'm not having any big problems, except a little trouble what I had with the scale. But so if you are starting a project like this, I definitely recommend that you just model a couple of like simple walls and simple floor pieces and then just throw them into Unreal Engine and make sure that your scale works, that you're working in the same scale. So in Blender, what I've done is that I'm usually using these metric scales. I'm just gonna go in and just load up that whereas we have like I think that it's in a world. No, it wasn't the world. A scene, yeah, so it's in scene, so I'm a unit project, so I'm usually working in meters. I really dig this meters thing in here. So now when we're looking at, we can see that every meter is basically one of the grid is 1 meter. So if I'm moving like this guy here, we can see that it will confirm to. Well, now it's actually, this whole thing is aligned so that it's just like you know, off from the grid, so it's kind of weird, but yeah, anyway, it works. It's actually correct. So like that. So yeah, definitely good to keep it like that. And then I noticed that if I keep this in a metric system, and then if I just export assets from here to Unreal Engine and use these settings, scale 1 and these default things, the FBX will actually works just perfectly. I don't have to do any scaling or anything like that. So it's such a pleasant way to work, and no problems at all whatsoever in there. So again, what I'm gonna do next is that I'm just gonna probably think about a little bit like am I gonna continue, am I gonna make another room here, or am I just gonna like focus on this view first. But again, like if I'm thinking about working like this, that I'm just creating a modular assets, then if I want to create a room later on, it's not such a big deal. I can just keep building on top of what I've already done, and then I'm not really sure yet how I'm going to really do the texturing. Am I going to use Substance Painter or Substance Designer? But whichever I use, texturing new assets based on the same sort of parameters is not a problem. It works for the both programs. I can use Substance Painter for that if I just save that, and if I'm using some sort of a generators like for the weather effects, like I'm using some kind of like a mask generators, there is no problem. There's just gonna, if I'm gonna just load another model in there, I'm gonna be able to use that same stuff. So it's creating like serialized assets in there is just a breeze, and of course in Substance Designer that's just what the whole program is so good for. So yeah, I haven't really done any thinking about how I'm really going to do the texturing. I might actually do some parts completely in Designer, because I'm so used to that just create serialized assets there and create sort of a graph and do some baking there, and if I need to do baking at all, I'm not quite sure yet, but yeah, just something to keep in mind. And then like the tubes were really fun to make, and the Blender is really brilliant for doing the curves and the tubes. So I actually did this panel here, and I did these tubes here, and I can show you guys. It's just this Bezier curve, and it's really good to keep the curve, not to commit to that. So I'm actually like to keep it as long as possible here. So I'm just gonna go here and hit tab. I can see that we have still the curve here. I'm just gonna be able to edit this pretty easily. So I'm just gonna like grab that, and we can see that we are gonna be able to edit this. So this is just so nice. We're gonna be able to do some different variations, or if something changes in our scene, if we move something and we need to make this tube go to another way, we're gonna be able to do that. So if you're done with that, you can just I think it was like Alt I don't remember, there's like a shortcut for that. Yeah, it's actually Alt C, so we can use this mesh from curve, and then if we click this, then we sort of commit to that, and we're going to be able to create a real mesh from that. So but they just fine. And if we export stuff out from here, it's really interesting because it works. It's just the exported mesh is actually I don't know, it seems that it's gonna generate a mesh for us from that. So I mean, this is just Blender's Bezier curves and making tubes or things like that is just absolutely fantastic. So just a little word about that. And then on this guy I still have actually mirror modifier here. So I'm gonna be able to edit this if I want to change something, or if I want to change that these here. I just don't know. Maybe this is some kind of keypad for the door, and it's a bit of a cliche. So I think in the future people don't maybe use numbers anymore as identification. So maybe there's gonna be like some sort of like a fingerprint sensor, or some kind of face recognition. I don't know, but it's just something that I'm now sort of doing, and then of course doing some concept models, something more cool than this, something like a more refined and more yeah, of course. So just at this point I just throw these. Okay, I need some console here, so I'm gonna put this guy in here, some kind of something that people can touch or something, and then that's just there. It took me whole 15 minutes to make that, and so on. But yeah, something like that. So the real thing about this is that, again, is that I don't want to go here and start to do some UV unwrapping, and then after done all that and packing the UV tiles and baking and whatnot, then I noticed, oh, this asset really doesn't work. So what I done then is that I went to actually created some renders using the cycles render, and what the render was, I can actually show you guys. This was the one which I came up with. I was able to do this color mask thing. So I just in Blender I just assigned different materials to different areas in that. So one of them was the tubes, and one of them was these container things here. And then I make that emissive color. So this completely ignores the lighting in the scene. So completely just sort of a color ID map thing. And then what I did, I combined that with I don't have that actually. I can show you guys maybe here. So I combined these with something like that. So this was just a basically render from the cycles render, and then I did some heavy levels adjustment to this, because it's pretty bright what I'm getting from there. So I just did some levels in here, and actually just turn these guys off. So this was actually the render which came from the cycles render, and it's pretty bright as you can see. So I'm just gonna use levels to sort of put the shadows darker, and then use this color mask, because this is really cool. Because when you think about like painting, you could just get in here and start to paint stuff. So let's just go in here and start to paint, but it's really tricky because we get all these tubes around the way and so on. So the really good is that we can use this color mask. So look at this, I have this one selected now, and I'm just going to use this magic wand tool, and now I'm going to be able to get in there and click some areas, and I'm getting perfect selections of these. So actually I think that probably yeah, it works like that, and this just is so I don't have to worry about start to make any masks or anything like that. So I'm just going to be able to do some selection and then paint on that. So I use this method to put some color to our render, and I was able to come up with something like that. And I even did some crunch like dirt things in here, and then what this was, that it just gives us some kind of more like a feel for that, how it's gonna be when we have like weather textures in there. And yeah, it's pretty easy way, and sort of a cheat, sort of like a cheating. Yeah. So what this is, of course, is just overlay. So I'm using the overlay to just put the color in there, and it works pretty well. It looks pretty decent, I think. And this sort of, again, thing that we would be presenting to our art director, that our art director gives us these tasks, that we have to create a spaceship level, we have to create some unique stuff. So we're gonna do that, and then we could get to this point without ever having to unwrap not even one asset. So we just basically model in Blender and render out our color ID mask, and then that normal grayscale render from the cycles, and we're gonna be able to get to this point. So yeah, pretty cool. If you ask me, I'm quite surprised that I'm already sort of starting to get an idea how it's gonna look. So the real purpose of this is, of course, that I need to get to take a look at the colors, and it's really nice way that we're gonna do that, because we're gonna be able to also adjust some of these colors with using like this hue saturation thing. So we're gonna be able to do this kind of thing, that if we wanna just try out quickly that how it's gonna look if it's more like a cooler color, and if it's more warmer color or whatever, we're gonna be able to do just visualize that in real time. I think that's pretty powerful. And how I'm using this is, by the way, I'm just clipping this hue saturation adjustment layer to do that by just like hitting Alt and then just doing like that. So now this is affecting only the layer below, so yeah, something like that. And yeah, so I'm pretty glad about how this turned out. And of course now we're still refining the assets. I'm still like putting more detail in here, and then starting to think about like how I'm gonna, if I'm gonna build more assets for the other rooms. But that's again something that could be done later. So we are not like committing anything, and everything is still sort of we have still completely freedom. We are not wasting any terrible effort if we are just gonna scrap something, like if this for example, if we decide that this roof doesn't really work, so we can just build another roof pretty quickly, and so on. So it's really, really good. But also that now we have the idea of the colors, that how the colors could be. So we have sort of a color palette in our mind now ready. So yeah, pretty nice way to do. So I really recommend, if you're doing some concept work, to sort of approach this way, that you just get into Photoshop and get some masks going and so on. So yeah. But yeah, I'm quite pleased with the progress so far, and now I'm just starting to need to sort of refine things, and maybe take a look at some if I need to make some more asset, like some kind of a tubes or something, like, because it still looks little off, a little bland or something like that. I'm not quite sure how interesting this is. So that when you're looking model like that, you're working with it and you're looking at it every day, then it starts to kind of you're gonna get the kind of a bored to that. And that's also a good thing, because then it sort of informs you that maybe something could be more interesting, or maybe something isn't, like, for example, this definitely needs something more interesting shapes than this. But yeah, I think this is it. Yes, I hope you find something useful out of this series, and looking forward to see you in the episode 3. This was Jaakko. I hope to see you soon. Bye bye.